It just got way more intense for the Carolina Hurricanes after, despite rallying late against the Buffalo Sabres, they suffered another horrible loss. And after the game, Coach Rod Brind'amour and Jaccob Slavin spoke out about some pretty bad things happening to the team. It's not just them. There's been a goalie situation going crazy with Kochetkov. There is a ton of stuff we have to dive into as to why the Carolina Hurricanes are all of a sudden one of the biggest cases of implosion in the NHL. We're going to dive into all that coming up on this episode of Hat Trick HQ. But before we get into the video, guys, a reminder, as always, we got new videos on new teams all the time, but still 93% of you watching this video are not subscribed, and we are so close to 10,000 subscribers. It's a huge milestone. So if you enjoy daily NHL content on all your favorite teams, hit the subscribe button down below. It's completely free. You will not regret it. I can promise you that. Mark, let's dive into this. Tempers are flaring right now in Carolina, and they did rally late against Buffalo, but there was a bit of a historic thing there. Buffalo, not often do you see the empty net goal without a shot registered. Sorry to bring that up, Canes fans, but my gosh, another brutal loss. The Hurricanes' record as of late, it has not been good. They started the season 14-4-0, and since then, they've gone 12-12-3. They're now 26-16-3, so they're still solidly third in their division. But Mark, what do you think has been one of the biggest problems for the Carolina Hurricanes now? Because I think fans are maybe split on it, but the thing you got to say at the end of the day, I mean, we've heard a lot from Coach Rod Brind'amour and Slavin that we'll get into in a minute, but even just seeing Svechnikov smack his stick off the boards, there's just there's not a lot of happiness going down in Carolina right now.
I mean, the first thing looking at it's tensions are flying around in Carolina right now. The biggest thing is looking at the standings. This team came out of the gates like we seen at the beginning in that first thing here, going 14-4 before going 12-12-3. The Carolina team is still sitting quite comfortably in the Metro Division as the third seed. They are getting snuck up on by a team like the Columbus Blue Jackets. Teams are slowly starting to catch up with Carolina sliding down a bit. But the biggest thing and we can see Rod just kind of talk about this, was tonight I thought our D weren't very good. Usually that's our strength, but that's good enough. The way they were handling the puck, it seems to be one thing one night and another the next. We need to be better, and that's just it. At the end of the day, the urgency needs to be more dialed in from the start of the game. I've seen a lot of Canes fans just kind of going in on this defense, saying this has been the biggest struggle. We're seeing a defensive core of some aging guys. We're seeing a defensive core, some young guys trying to break into the lineup. But looking at what they have right now, and a lot of people, and we'll touch on one player specifically, seems to be mad at some of the veteran defensemen and just how they're carrying themselves into the game. But Josh, looking at this, is there anyone that really sticks out to you on the defensive pairing that might kind of be struggling a tiny bit?
I mean, look, I think we both know where we're going with this. And look, he is a bit of a scapegoat, but for good reason right now. Brent Burns has not been what he used to be. I mean, sometimes I feel like a lot of fans feel like we're surprised he hasn't broken the glass yet. With the amount of shots that he's had that have missed the net. Carolina, by the way, number one in the entire NHL on unblocked shots that miss the net. They're almost 40% of their unblocked shots miss the net. And Brent Burns probably has a handful of them, even Svetch to some extent too. But right now, Brent Burns, like 18 points in 45 games, is not horrible for a 39-year-old defenseman. But right now, he's a -1 on quite a solid team. He has a lot of giveaways compared to takeaways, though those stats are always a bit tough to read into. Look, he's just not been what he used to be. The offense is not quite there. He's missing the net too much. His defensive reliability is starting to fall. But overall, it's the effort, I think, from a lot of these guys. And I don't want to call out anyone in particular. I don't want to say Burns is giving less than his all, because I hate to say that. I mean, I'm not in their position. He's really old, too, relative to NHL standards. But a lot of the forwards, and specifically the defensemen right now, it's just like Rod said, you got to be better, especially the defense. The amount of giveaways has been ridiculous, and the lack of intensity from opening puck drop to the final horn has been kind of surprising, to say the least, for the Hurricanes.
And I mean, looking at this, listen, I love Brent Burns. I loved him when he was on the San Jose Sharks and coming to Carolina. But the biggest thing is 39 years old, playing top line minutes. Maybe Father Time has caught up on Burns. There's a lot of defensemen in this lineup that can step up. They might go out and still acquire more players and defensemen at deadline. But right now, it seems like Rod Brind'amour is kind of just favoring his vets, which, yes, everyone does. And it is deserved, but maybe it seems like it's Brent Burns' time to maybe move back in the lineup a bit, maybe to go into the second period, the third period. He's still effective. He's a guy you can have on the power play. He can still kill some penalties, but playing a guy of this age, almost 22 minutes a night, might be a little hard on him and the team when it gets to it. I mean, we've seen the empty net goal last night, which did not have a shot, but going into Slavin, just speaking on this as well, He said it's definitely surprising. We're known as a team that competes every night and consistently have a chance to win every night. But lately, I feel like we haven't had a chance to win every night. Now, seeing your head coach come out, one of your top defensemen, and in my opinion, one of the best defensemen in the league as a defensive defenseman, seeing Svechnikov just kind of getting mad at how things have been going. Josh, looking at this, do you think they can kind of right the ship? Or do you think with all this coming out, there might be maybe a small change coming to the team, maybe via trade or something else?
Look, I mean, it's always tough to say. As the trade deadline approaches, teams are always looking to fix whatever problems they have. So I think it'd be almost irresponsible for me to say that they're definitely not going to make any moves. I think they're going to be open to making some moves. Do I think it's going to be something major? Not necessarily, because we've seen that this team is capable to be one of the best teams in the NHL. They've consistently been a good team over the last few years, and even to start this year, they were amazing. Things are falling apart a bit now. Some players are going through colder stretches. Their scoring isn't on par with what they maybe would have wanted. They're switching up the lines a bit. Svechnikov has been playing a lot more third line lately. As for Svech kind of slamming his stick on the boards, yeah, we can say tempers are flaring, but I think any good goal scorer is going to be doing that if they're frustrated that they're not scoring a goal, right? And you look at the team leaders in points. Of course, Nečas is having an unbelievable season. You got Aho, who still has 44 points in 45 games. And even Svech himself got 15 goals. He's second or third on the team there. Roslovic is actually playing PP2 and still has 17 goals. Though Eric Robinson has been playing up in that second line, the defensive production just hasn't quite been there. And again, it comes down to that effort. So ultimately, at the end of the day, I think Carolina is going to be one of these teams that is in the mix for trades. Now, whether that's for another defenseman, it's hard to say because, again, that decor is not that bad. It's just they're not playing to the level that they're capable of playing up to, right? Burns is definitely the crux of that, but a guy like Chatfield, even that Walker Gostisbehere pairing, like, has shown that they can be quite good and have the potential to be quite good night in, night out. It's a really dynamic pairing. Orlov and Chatfield, yeah, Orlov's making a lot of money for what he's giving, but like it's really not that bad. Look, I don't really know what to think on that front. I think the goalie situation is an interesting one too, of course, with Kochetkov being a very solid player in net. Like he's played 28 of the games. If Freddie Anderson was healthy, I think we might have a bit of a different story right now. I think Carolina might have won a couple extra games having that security back there. But Kochetkov has not been bad by any stretch of the imagination. But when you're getting to points where you're starting Dustin Tokarski in 2025, look, I mean, his numbers speak for themselves. They have not been that bad in 6 starts, a 2.18 GAA. Look, that's fine. Give Kochetkov a bit more rest if you can, but Kochetkov had to come in anyway. I don't know. There are some problems with the Hurricanes, but I don't think it requires a major fix right now at this deadline, though I will say if the season continues to go down this downward spiral, I think in the offseason you're definitely going to be looking at something.
I think the biggest thing, and yes, the forwards look great. We see the defense appearance. I mean, looking at the forwards, and I'll touch on this quickly. This is a deep team that has scoring and veterans, everything in between on a lot of lines. But with the goaltending, this is where I think they really need to have a hard look at it. Freddie Anderson came in and looked stellar to the start of the year. 4 games played, 3 wins, 1 loss, 941 save percentage. She went down with an injury. And since then, they've cycled through so many goaltenders. You have someone like Spencer Martin step in, Dustin Tokarski. This is hard to win games when you're rotating through goalies. Sometimes they get hot and win you a lot of games. But if you're going to what seems to be an older journeyman in someone like Tokarski, maybe this does lose a bit of confidence for the team in front of him if he's not playing well. But it's going to get interesting. I do think the goaltenders are going to be the main focus of this. But looking at this, Josh, I know a lot of Hurricanes fans are going to kind of want to hear the positivity on it. Do you think there is a chance they miss the playoffs? Because I think they're 100% going to make it. But this is a little concerning for a team looking to win a Stanley Cup.
Look, if they miss the playoffs, then they have some serious decisions to make. But no, I mean, I have them as a lock, and I think most people should have them as the lock. I think the people panicking over this recent stretch of games, yeah, you're playing like 500 hockey, which is below a playoff pace. 500 hockey doesn't mean the same thing as 500 in basketball or football. Like, it's worse, right? You need to have about a 560, 570 to be in that playoff mix usually. Look, I don't think this is a long-term thing. Yeah, it's happened now over the course of the last, 27 games. They've been pretty rough after starting 14-4. But they're still too good. They're still too good to miss the playoffs. Like Columbus, look, I know it's possible. They make up the ground, but I don't see it happening. I think Carolina is too good. This roster construction is too good. They're still going to get production out of their lower guys in the lineup. Certain guys are going to get out of slumps. There are maybe some things to be addressed at the deadline, but we'll see that when we see it. If they do miss the playoffs, so be it. There'll be some changes in the offseason. But right now, I'd be confident if I was a Hurricanes fan that this team will turn it around. It's just a matter of time. But I want to hear what you guys have to say. Whether you're a Hurricanes fan or not, leave us your thoughts down below because this situation is getting pretty intense. That'll do it for this episode of Hat Trick HQ. If you enjoyed, subscribe subscribe to the channel. We're pushing so close to 10,000 subscribers. So if you hit the button down below, we'd really, really appreciate it. I'm Josh Gosse, my co-host, Mark Pye. We'll catch you in the next one.